It's Monday, the 23rd of February 2026. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Morning, Michael.
Very quick reminder, if you're listening to this on Spotify and doing it through the Your Daily Drive playlist, you need to hit follow on the podcast because that playlist is about to disappear and it may be a little bit hard to find us after that. So hit follow right at this very moment. Let's get on with it, Sean. Story number 1, Donald Trump has introduced a 15% global tariff for all goods entering the United States after the Supreme Court ruled that the Trump administration's tariffs previously announced under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act were unlawful. So the new tariffs are in place now for 150 days. That is allowed, but will need congressional support to go any longer than that. 150 days. Trump has promised to find new ways of levying duties on goods coming into the country. He was clearly angered by the 6-3 decision of the court, saying the judges who voted against the tariffs should be ashamed of themselves. What do you make of all of this?
Well, let's say global trade's in a place of uncertainty. The trade deals announced since Liberation Day probably stay. Refund of the tariffs, about 180 billion US dollars. Not so sure about that one. Trump said his administration will undertake trade reviews on specific countries and sectors. That could actually cause an outbreak of friction because it gets a bit personal when it's country v country as opposed to just a broad-based tariff. Also, the world's changed since Liberation Day last April. Bigger economies, European Union, mostly standing up against Trump more than they did previously. I mean, we haven't spoken much about Greenland, and that's because Europe threatened these massive tariff retaliation over that issue. So Trump backed down. Also, a big loss of revenue for Trump. Big problem because he's got the one big, beautiful bill, included tax cuts and more defence spending. The other thing I think that showed really is that the Supreme Court will check some of Trump's powers, which many think is a good thing.
So the universal 15% tariff, it's bad for Australia because we previously only had a 10% tariff imposed. Same deal for the UK. Yesterday we had Trade Minister Don Farrell out blasting away, calling the global tariff unjustified.
Yes, but in our case, the stuff we sell to the US hasn't been much impacted by tariffs anyway. We sell meat to the US, prices have soared. Same deal with gold. We know what's happened there. Broadly, the government believes in free and fair trade. I agree with that. Farrell's actually heading to California this week. But really, even the tariffs that have been imposed on us thus far haven't had much of an impact.
And it's going to be messy for markets, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. 60%, this is story number 2, Sean. About 60% of companies have reported their December half profits. This is on the ASX. It's been pretty good overall, with mining profits up by about 33%. Banks are up around 8%. Energy companies down 18%. The rest up about 4%. That's helped push the local share market close to record levels, even though there's plenty of reasons investors should be cautious.
Absolutely. Interest rates, they could rise this year. The actual market itself, in historical terms, really expensive at the moment. Not much risk premium for equities over bonds, which makes bonds better value. Still plenty of geopolitical uncertainty around the place. A surprise that our market's doing so well at the moment.
Yeah. Story number 3, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has said that tackling cost of living pressures remains front and centre for his government, alongside a focus on national security.
Speaking on Sky News yesterday, the PM said economic reform was top of the agenda and the government's focus was on getting inflation lower. He avoided questions about scaling back capital gains tax concessions for property investors. That mostly means that they are thinking about it. He was asked about One Nation's surge in the polls. He pretty much teed off, saying it's a political movement that focuses on dividing Australians and pitting them against each other. He said they amplify grievances rather than come up with solutions.
Story number 4, each quarter, this is really interesting, NAB puts out a national wellbeing index, and basically it looks at how Australians feel about their lives in response to changing economic conditions and social conditions and personal finances, all that kind of stuff. And after rising through much of last year, the index has actually now dropped, and it's younger Aussies who are feeling more stressed.
Yeah, so young Australians face the high stress, frequent difficulties with essential expenses, pronounced inability to raise emergency funds. By contrast, older Australians on average report significantly higher well-being, lower financial stress, greater satisfaction across lifestyle, financial and emotional measures. Migrants especially those that have arrived in the last 5 years, tend to be more optimistic than Australian-born individuals. While overall wellbeing has softened, Australians generally continue to demonstrate resilience and adaptability. Social cohesion is also strong, so parental and grandparental financial support for adult children is rising, for example. It's now present in about 1 in 7 households.
All right, last one. Story number 5. The Winter Olympics comes to an end, Sean.
Yes.
This particular Games is considered one of the great Winter Olympics, headlined by Norway's Johannes Klæbo, who, after winning the cross-country 50-kilometre men's mass start over the weekend, set a record for golds in one game with 6 and across a career as well with 11.
I got addicted to watching Klæbo. He's like the Michael Jordan or Don Bradman of cross-country skiing, I think. Some very historic moments. Canada's men beating Great Britain 9-6 in the curling final. I reckon for mine, curling's come of age in these Olympics. Loving the curling. Australia's 3 gold medals, 2 silver and 1 bronze makes it our most successful Winter Olympics ever. Norway set a new record for gold medals, 18. About 3,500 athletes competed. Just under half being females. Closing ceremony starts this morning. 2 of our medal winners, Danielle Scott and Cooper Woods, will carry the flag.
It's been great to watch. Loving the curling, though, is not a sentence I suspect you ever thought you'd hear yourself say, though, Sean. All right, there we go. Top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Monday, the 23rd of February, 2026. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, very important. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.